Good morning and welcome to Tuesday's Tidbit. I saw a quote yesterday and it said, true greatness isn't measured by how strictly you follow the rules, but by the courage to challenge them when it truly matters. Those who lead with purpose and conviction often face the most resistance, yet their impact speaks louder than any judgment. And I was reminded of this morning because I saw the Theodore Roosevelt quote, "The Man in the Arena." If you don't know that, maybe I'll talk about that at some other point, but you can go look that up. But it's just so interesting, right? How do you measure greatness? How do you measure success? It's kind of the same question, but being great isn't necessarily about following the rules. As a matter of fact, what's the old quote? Uh, I want to be the woman who's broken all the rules and slid in head first at the end of my life kind of thing. But, it takes courage to challenge the status quo. It takes courage to challenge things that matter to you, right? And so we're seeing this right now in a lot of places in the world. But if you follow me, I'm a big sports fan. In the WNBA right now, one of the premier players hasn't been signed, and there's speculation that it possibly could be because she has taken an unpopular um, stance on a particular issue, and it's different than a lot of people, but that's kind of been her platform, right? Is that she's taken these stances, and the WNBA has been known for being political anyway, but she's had the courage to challenge that. What if it cost her, her professional career? It's just interesting, and I think I'm not the one who usually talks about men versus women, but I think sometimes women um, are judged a little differently. I know there are people who will disagree with me at this point. They think that it's an even playing field. But here's my question to you. If you want to be a leader, do you have the conviction to face the resistance? Because you're going to get it, right? Not everyone's going to like you. Not everyone's going to agree with you. Not everybody wants to be your client. All of those things, right? There's going to be resistance along the way. And the question is, how do you handle it? Do you shrink and go away? Or do you stand tall in the resistance? Do you stand tall when the challenges come, right? Do you face it? Because your impact will be different depending upon what you do. And I've often said that's what it's about for me. Somebody asked me the other day, what's the most important thing in your business? And it's the impact that I can make. It's the impact I can make on business owners, on women, on little girls, on little boys, who might hear me or see me. Um, I was at the University of Georgia a couple weekends ago watching them play the Missouri softball team, which I'm an alumni of the softball team, and I'm looking around at these little boys and girls, right, and their reactions to them, and I'm thinking these, whether they wanted to be or not, in some of these kids' eyes, they were leaders. And so, how do you handle that? And how do you handle it? I think the big thing is when you come up against the resistance, when you come up against the naysayers, when you come up against the armchair quarterbacks, if you will, right? And so, I just love this quote. It's not measured in whether or not you follow the rules. It's measured by the courage that you have to overcome the challenges. And you're going to have challenges every day. Being a business owner, being an entrepreneur isn't easy. It's not supposed to be. By the way, having a job isn't easy, right? And I'm not the person who says, oh, life is hard. I don't necessarily believe that. But there are going to be challenges. You're going to face resistance. You're going to have conflict. And the question I want you to think about is, how do you handle it? Do you handle it with grace, or are you combative, right? There's a difference between responding and reacting. And I always want to try to respond to things. And I didn't grow up in a responding family, right? I didn't grow up that way, but it's a learned skill. It's something that you can learn. And so, your impact will speak louder than any judgment if you just keep going. My thing is, I grew up in a family where we didn't quit. You weren't allowed to quit once you started something, kind of thing. Now, that didn't mean you had to play a sport forever or whatever, but if you started the season, you were going to finish it. And I think, that it's a good lesson and a bad lesson. But I would love to have a conversation about this particular topic. How do you define greatness? It says, I think it's like defining success. I think it's dependent on each individual person. But I would love to have your feedback. Let's start a conversation. Let's see what you think. All right. I hope that was a helpful Tuesday's tidbit. I'll be back tomorrow with Wednesday's wisdom. In the meantime, make it a great day. I'm Diane Conklin with Complete Marketing Systems and Diane'sDozen.com.